Well, the president has read the controversial GOP memo on the Russia investigation and is returning it back to the House Intelligence Committee tomorrow. He wants it released to the public, and this comes as a top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff, has called for the chairman of the committee, Devin Nunes, to step aside. Earlier, I spoke with CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid about the controversy.
Well, it's unprecedented for the FBI to come out and give this kind of statement. It really speaks to how extraordinary the situation is. The FBI's specific concerns are as much about what this memo doesn't say as it is about what is actually in this 3.5-page memo. The concern for the FBI is that this is all part of crafting a narrative, and someone went into this 50 to 60-page FISA application and cherry-picked what would actually support this narrative, condensed it down to a 3.5-page memo that makes it look like the FBI was not properly getting that surveillance authority. The only way to rebut something like this, though, for the FBI is to perhaps issue their own sort of memo or formal rebuttal. But in order to fully address what's in that memo, you may have to reveal certain sources or methods, and that's what they don't want to do, Rena.
So we're hearing the plan is for the White House to return the memo back to the Intelligence Committee. Break that down for us. What does that signal to you that the president's doing that?
Well, it signals that the president just doesn't really heed the concerns from the FBI. There are also concerns, of course, from Democrats. They were also worried that there were some changes. They wanted the new tweaked memo to go back to committee for a new vote on whether or not to release this new altered memo. But ultimately, the White House says, sources tell us, that the White House will confer with the FBI. There could be some redactions, but what we've learned from this is that the president is not taking the pleas or the advice of the federal law enforcement community that has said they do not want this released.
Paula, how do you think that this memo will impact the debate on the Russia probe?
Well, many people see this memo as a thinly veiled attempt to undermine the Russia probe. The argument is that as the Mueller probe intensifies, as it accelerates, there's an attempt by the president and his allies to divert attention from that and make it seem like federal law enforcement, that's the real scandal here. And of course, the number one focus of this memo is Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. He is the man overseeing the Russia probe. He is the one who also has approval authority over any charges that are brought in that case. So if you can successfully undermine him by taking some facts out of the 60-page FISA warrant to make it look like he was taking improper considerations into account when seeking the surveillance power, you can, by extension, undermine the outcome of the Mueller probe.
And our understanding is we know the president's read the memo, right?
Yes, at this point, that is our understanding. He has opted not to exercise his authority to block it, so it'll go back to committee. And as we understand it right now, it is expected to be released tomorrow.
So Chairman Devin Nunes, we know, as you mentioned, wrote this memo, which claims that both the FBI and the Justice Department abused this covert intelligence capabilities. But the big overarching question here, Paula, what do you think this is going to mean ultimately as we're moving forward in the coming days and weeks?
Well, usually when it comes to intelligence, with this specific committee, usually it tends to be one of the more bipartisan enterprises. People put aside their thoughts on more controversial issues like immigration or abortion or something, and they just try to do what's best for the country and support our law enforcement, our intelligence gathering folks out in the field, and of course, I guess in some offices here in D.C. But now, a move like this, sort of pushing out this narrative, this highly condensed partisan document, it really does a lot to undermine that bipartisan cooperation that you'd especially want on a committee when they are defending us against so many different threats, both domestic and international. So, Rena, going forward, I think this really adds a strain, might be too much of an understatement, to this particular committee and so much of the good bipartisan work it has historically done.
Paula Reid, thank you for this report, Paula.